We are in the midst of a housing crash and no one is talking about it. But the thing is that I believe that Donald Trump and his friends actually know that this is going on and the affordability crisis is hitting an all-time high. The reason I think that this is going on is because of the new proposals that they have made with the 50-year mortgage. Now, you will be happy and own nothing and be in debt for literally your entire life with these new plans. But the reality of all of this is that it just hyperinflates the underlying problem of the affordability of the homes in the United States. So let's dive right in to all of this because this housing crash is really just going under wraps here. We're seeing houses lose value at an all time rate. I mean, even look at this in California, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Denver, all of these major hubs, we're seeing homes lose value. And 85% of homes in Tampa, where I call home for majority of the year, and then I'm in Austin right now, you see 89% have lost homes. And so, despite the national average home prices remaining unchanged, a lot of the major markets around the globe are seeing these home values fall year over year. And this is showing that the housing market is just stagnant. So previously, during the quote unquote cerveza sickness, when everybody was shut down, we had everybody flocking from the north to the south, essentially, right? The places that were more lockdown heavy, and they were going to the more free and open places when you could work remote and work anywhere. People were flocking to these different states. Texas, Tennessee, Florida all saw massive amounts of influx, including Arizona as well. Warmer places, warmer climates, you saw everybody flocking to them. Well, now because housing prices are relatively higher than they were during those times and interest rates are higher, which means mortgage rates are higher, housing has been somewhat stagnant. Now, because the Fed is cutting interest rates, people are seeing their mortgages lower over time, or at least the new mortgages lower, excuse me. But the reality is that majority of mortgages right now, over 60%, are under 4%. And so with the mortgage rates still above 6%, nobody wants to move. And when people are moving, they're having to move because they're getting called back into the office, which people didn't necessarily see at one point in time. They thought remote work is here to stay. Everybody is more efficient working from home. All of these different things that we were told initially, turns out, believe it or not, they weren't true. So we're starting to see this max exodus from where everybody moved to. And then this is causing markets to become stuck and stuck in a lot of places around the country. So, with this US housing market stuck and sales and listings barely budging, now it is really interesting when you kind of take a step back and look at the housing market because it is very correlated to the jobs market and just how people feel about everything in the economic stability. Because housing market, although it moves extremely slow, it is theoretically the biggest purchase anybody would make in their life. And so it takes a lot of thought, a lot of planning, and people want to buy homes at the right time. So if they feel like it's not the right time, they'll wait. They'll sit on their hands. And the narrative for quite some time was that there's a lot of money on the sidelines. Everybody's sitting here and waiting for the right time. Once the Fed cuts interest rates and starts to cut interest rates, well, that's when everybody will go in and start to buy homes. Well, we aren't seeing that. Now we're seeing a normal market where houses are sitting on the market for 2 to 3 months. But the problem is that because of the euphoria that we saw not too long ago, people aren't used to the normal market. They are looking for markets that are euphoric, that are, when you saw people in 2020 buying houses, $100,000, $200,000 in cash over asking. Now, do I ever think we're going to see a housing market like that again in our lifetimes? I doubt it, unless something crazy happens. But at this point, you know what? Crazy things happen every single day, and the amount of money that gets printed, you never know. But the reality of all of this is that new data that has come out is actually very troubling because they're showing that the housing market is really just extremely stagnant and numbers are going down. And all of these ads just love to pop up right when I'm coming up to all or describing all of this to you guys. But the new data shows a hidden home ownership cost, such as insurance, the pressure, and the most intense particular cities for some group, and the housing market shows other signs of strain. So, turns out the monthly mortgage, the hitting cost, now ongoing maintenances are going up 16,000 per year. And the crazy thing about all of this is that just because the new home mortgages and the 50-year potential mortgages could quote unquote solve this, but it doesn't hide the fact that these houses are made a lot more cheaply, and that even though we're seeing home builders have the most confidence that they've had in a few years now, actually seeing that rise up a point. It's interesting because these home builders are just starting to you know, crank out homes. The builder confidence in the market for newly built single family homes rose 1 point by 38 in November. So even though that these new home builders are now becoming more quote unquote confident, whatever that really means, they aren't seeing the homes move as quickly as they were previously. And there was a deficit, or at least that was the narrative, that there wasn't enough homes being built because people were moving so much back and forth. Reality of all of this is that there are enough homes for everybody in the United States. Multiple people own multiple homes, So, I mean, there's enough housing for everybody, but the builders keep coming in and they have to have the confidence that they can sell these homes as soon as they're built in this euphoric market or wherever we may stand. Of course, they're always hoping for that quote unquote euphoric market, but the traffic of those prospective buyers, they're going up a little bit. People are a little bit tentative and, thinking about it. And they're starting to potentially think of moving in on all of this. But Americans need to earn 70% more today than they did literally just 6 years ago with all of this. So it's not only that real estate is seeing a sign of slowing, it's that the affordability crisis of real estate is hitting an all-time high. And I've shown you guys this chart for many times on this channel. So if you guys are coming back, please hit that subscribe button. I know 92% of you guys that keep coming back are not subscribed. So please help me get to 500 and help me get to 1,000 here pretty soon. Now with this, right, we're starting to see this shed some light, right? The housing market reaching its most unaffordable level in history is coming out. And hey, look at what happened here, this 2006 bubble. Well, after 2006, obviously, it was 2007 and 8, and then you see this crash on down. So maybe a housing crash would be somewhat healthy here, but the problem is majority of people in the United States have a lot of their net worth in their houses. So that would be bad news for retirement and all of these other things. So is the United States going to dig itself out of a housing affordability crisis, right? Because it's reached crisis level. They explore how they're going to do it, right? Rentals are the solution, right? The problem is supply, not enough, and the wrong type, right? I mean, these are the same narratives that we keep on hearing. Solutions include developing smaller houses, refurbish older houses. Everybody want to be in tiny homes, right? If you go drive around, like I'm in Texas, folks, and I think that these arguments are always just a mute point because you could drive around the state of Texas and just see plots of land for as far as the eye can see. But the thing is that they want you to put you in all of these 15-minute cities close by. They want people living on top of each other. The reality is we don't need those living conditions. And now I'm live streaming this to you guys from Austin, Texas. And I'm sure you guys are watching from all over the globe, all over the country. So we have the internet. We can be connected from anywhere. But why do we need to have all of these tiny homes when you drive around and there's plenty of land everywhere that can be built, right? So when people propose all of these different things, I think that they're undermining the real issue. The real issue is that we are cranking out homes at an all-time rate, and we're doing it so quickly that we're running out of materials, and the materials that we're using are faulty. And so these homes that we get built right now need more rehab. They need more cost underlying. And so the reality of the toilet calls at midnight weren't really a thing a couple years ago, but now unfortunately that is more commonplace. And so the tradesmen, all of these things, right? We need more jobs like this in the United States. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox and keep looking at this, because there is a serious housing crisis with high profile conservative influencers leading the charge, right? And I think, say what you want about Mamdani in New York, but one thing that he did say that I think is, kind of intelligible, probably the reason why he got elected in New York, is that he listened. He listened to everybody in New York, and everybody in New York was saying, we have an affordability crisis. I can't afford housing. I can't afford to live here. Groceries are too high, all of these different things, right? The rent is too damn high. They had a mayoral candidate run on that literally a couple years ago. And so I think everybody around the United States is starting to feel these pressures. And so they are just trying to stay stagnant, because I don't know about you guys, but having to move from place to place to place, those incur a recurring costs. So I'm going to keep diving on in this, but make sure you guys are hitting that like button for me and subscribing to the channel, because in 16 days, just around 17 days, actually, we're actually going to see the Fed now potentially cut interest rates. And all of this, if you guys have been following this channel, know that I've been following it back and forth. And literally, a week ago, it was looking unlikely that we were going to cut interest rates. Well, now today, it looks like it's on nearly a 70% chance that we're going to do so. Yesterday, it was 71. Today, 69. So basically about a 70% chance over this weekend that we were going to cut interest rates in less than 3 weeks. And if we cut interest rates, that would actually lower mortgage rates. And I think that the reality of lowering mortgage rates is it would make it a little bit more affordable. Now, will housing go up subsequently? That's a risk I think that the Fed needs to take at this point. Because as McLovin in the chat is saying, it's been looking really wobbly and scary for a long time. So if you're looking closely at it, you have to be very cautious with getting into the overall real estate market, just because of where it's at. I mean, the positive things that we are seeing is that we are seeing the Dixie actually above 100. And I've been doing this channel for, doing live streams with maybe 6 months or so, 5-6 months at this point. And this is the first time we're seeing the Dixie over 100. And so I think it's very positive to start to see the strength of the dollar start to come up. And I think that, the strength of the dollar, well, that's what we want to see start to crank up, especially compared to all of these other hard assets. And with real estate waning, we're going to start to see all of these other hard assets potentially waning itself as well. And then we've also seen the stock market start to come down. It was nearly at 6,900, nearly at 7,000, and now we're at 66. So we're down from those all-time highs. We're down 2% in a month. But I mean, if you zoom out, right, from these April lows, we've just absolutely ripped and had some of the best runs that we've seen literally in history. Granted, we're starting to flatten out a little bit, and I think that's healthy for the market, and I think it's much needed. But, these rips, we'll be covering them all on this channel. So make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button. Exactly. First time I've seen 100 up plus on here. It's been very close. I mean, the Dixie has not been friendly to us here since I've been following it. But make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button with the bell notification so you can join McLovin in the chat. Shout out to all 4 of you guys in here. I think this is one of the most we've seen. Next time, blow up the chat for me, guys. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and I'll catch you guys all at the next one.